We had to go to Legazpi City because Chandler had to see my aunt. Her name is Norma, and we had breakfast at this diner in Pili. This is actually about a 20-minute drive from home, and our home is in Naga City. So this is a different place, but this is along the highway on the way from Naga to Legazpi City. And I'd like to show you guys the interior of this diner because this diner, it's called Big's Diner, is very, very popular in Bicol because partly because of its decor. It has vintage pieces, real vintage pieces anchored to the walls. Like, for instance, we have here a transistor radio, I think, and then we have a footlocker from the military, and we have an adding machine and a video recorder from the 80s, it looks like. And then we have a petrol can, and there's the footlocker and the transistor radio, and then we have what looks to be like a combat helmet, and then a very old telephone, and then some oil can, and then a typewriter. And then there's that neon sign and old mirrors with branding on them. It's very, very interesting. And over here on this wall, we have other old things. They look like memorabilia, like we have old signs, and then we have model vehicles. And I think these are vintage because they don't look similar to how modern model vehicles are made. And we have a lamp, and then a soccer ball, and then over here we have some framed artwork and some vinyl records still in their sleeves. I can see Fleetwood Mac over there, but it's not the Rumors album. And I think they collect these to put them on the stores, and their Big's Diner is very well known for their vintage decor. And we have, of course, a jukebox. And then on a different wall, this is near the comfort rooms, we have vintage movie posters. This was from A View to a Kill. And then we have a really cool signed um, basketball jersey from the NBA. It's from the Celtics. And then we have more vintage movie posters in frames. There's the poster for the original Ocean's 11. And then we have another 007 poster, and then here's one for Gone with the Wind. And the small glass panels that act as separators for the dining tables have artwork on them that show faces of famous people. And then the floor is a black and white check, which is characteristic of diners. And their placemats continue to evolve. They change like every year. And this one here is the current one. It has a lot of things in it, and you can color in some of the elements. If you can ask them for crayons, but we don't have small children with us, so we just left the placemats alone. And Big's Diner has been in Bicol since 1983. I'm very familiar with them. They didn't used to be called Bigs then, but they're called Bigs now. And then we proceeded on the road trip. This is pretty much what all provincial roads look like. This is the countryside that you can see on both the left and the right. There are some variations sometimes, but for the most part, these are all the same, like rice farms that are small, because a lot of people do subsistence farming in the countryside. And then we have small houses by the roadside. Some of them are made of nipa, some of them are made of cement, and then a lot of jeepneys and a lot of motorcycles. And we have here another neighborhood, but pretty much they're all the same. So I won't really show much of this because once you've seen one, you've seen them all. And but I will show whatever I think is kind of would be interesting to people who don't live in the Philippines. Now, this here is one of the things that I wanted to show you. This is called a pecuaria, and it's a sort of it's a farm that has a hilly range. It's very, very scenic, and you can visit. Actually, you can. This is owned by one of the managing partners of the Big's Diner that I showed you. And here's another thing that I wanted to show you. I think you can see this only in the Philippines. That is a tricycle, a motorcycle attached to a sidecar that gives it a total of three wheels, so we call it a tricycle. And they overloaded the entire thing with people, and it's so terrifying because those are young kids. They must be young teenage boys, and they're just holding on as best as they can. And I think the one in the backpack is even on his phone. It's so terrifying, but um, it's really a hazard, but people do that here all the time. And I think people have gotten used to seeing it and people have gotten used to doing it. So they never think of that anymore as a hazard. And here is another tricycle, but it's not loaded with people. It has a sack of something at the back of it that's flapping about in the wind, and it's overtaking yet another tricycle. So, those are just some of the things that you can see while on a road trip on any province in the Philippines. And this here would be the Mayon volcano, the volcano with the world's most perfect cone. It just has clouds on top of it, so we cannot see it. Sometimes there are no clouds, so we can see it all in its entire glory, but for today, it didn't show its peak. And this is when we were in Kamalig. That would be the Mayon volcano that you see in the background, and this is really what you see: a lot of tricycles, a lot of motorcycles and trucks, and a lot of road work as well. And the roads here aren't as good as the ones on the actual highway. And as we get into the inner city, the roads become smaller and more narrower, and there are more houses, of course, because this would be a residential area that we have to go through before we can reach my aunt's home. And we did have to drop by at a store to buy ice and ice cream. And this is the store that we dropped by. We don't really frequent this store so much. It was just along the way, and it's actually a bakery. And here are the breads that they make. I hardly ever see them in Metro Manila, although I know that there are bakeries like this in Metro Manila, but I hardly ever go around, so I don't really see them much. But it's interesting that in the province, we still have a lot of these. And there's the ice that we purchased, and there is the ice cream that we purchased. And that is my brother Marco holding on to the ice and the ice cream. He went on the trip with us. And we are back on the road again. Now, this is how the road looks in the actual city of Legazpi. Um, the roads are marked clearly with white lines. Although there are more tricycles and jeeps, there are also more pedestrians. Some side streets don't have the solid white lines on either side, but they do have the white broken lines in the middle, and pedestrian lanes are clearly marked. It is a Sunday noon, so people are probably at home because it's very, very hot. And we wanted to go to the boulevard and Embarcadero because I have never been there, and my dad, who was driving us, wanted to show me the place. So we are on our way there. When there wasn't a structure here, we thought this hill was actually very, very far, but now it's literally within arm's reach. And now we're past the port and we are here already at the boulevard. Those establishments that you can see on the right are actually restaurants that get fish from the sea on the left, and then they cook them and serve them at the restaurants on the right. It's not much to see from this angle that I'm taking the video, But when you're facing the sea, like this one, it's actually quite nice. It's very, very scenic. This is already the boulevard. There is a vast expanse of water, and we can see only about a couple of fishing boats. But the water is very, very calm. It's a very calm day, and it's high noon, and the water is clear and greenish, and to a certain extent, you can see the rocks on the shore. And we have a boat here with three people on them, and they are laying down, I think, some nets for fish. Here is the view from where we were standing on that day. Um, it's a very, very quiet area, and on that day, there were no boats on here except for the fishing boats that we just saw. And there are actually steps leading down straight to the water, and there are a few more of these steps along the side of the port. So if you want to like walk a little bit on the water, you can, but I'm not sure if it would be too comfortable because it's very, very rocky. There are flags that indicated that this used to be the site of the Mount Mayon Triathlon Asian Cup that just happened, but we weren't there to see it. And here's the view once more. It's very nice. I think part of the niceness is stemming from the fact that it's deserted. I think crowds would make this not a very nice place. And there we can see Mount Mayon again. And while we were backing up out of the boulevard, we saw this kid. He was snorkeling and then he was tagging along that floating styrofoam thing. I think that's where he puts the fishes that he caught. And then we have here, this is where people pose for their pictures. It's really just a bunch of stand up letters spelling the name of Legazpi. And here we are finally in Embarcadero. We are walking, and Embarcadero is really, really so creepy. It's on the port, but it has almost nothing in it. It used to be a very happening place. A lot of establishments used to be there. There was a salon, a bunch of salons, a bunch of so many restaurants and bars and souvenir shops. But right now, this is all that's left. A souvenir shop at the ground floor. That's what it is. That's the biggest that's in there. And then just these and nothing else. The souvenir area is the only one that's functioning, I guess. And these small stalls for souvenirs, they're still there. And on the second floor, there's almost nothing. And when we look down from the second floor, there's really nothing. This is a salon that seems to be open, but there's no one in there. So it's really, really kind of sad and a little bit creepy. So we didn't really do anything much. We just left after a while. And this is the Philippine Port Authority compound that governs or manages the port. And this would be Legazpi City, again, the city proper. I just wanted you to see that LCC thing. LCC, that is the oldest mall in Legazpi City, but now it's owned by Ayala Malls, but they still have maintained the LCC branding. And you know how I feel about malls. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. So I'm not going to delve much into it. But we did drop by this really, really amusing restaurant. It's called First Colonial Restaurant. And I just wanted to show you these very, very strange ice creams that they have. Let me show you the menu for the ice cream. Among the strangest flavors that they have there, I think the kamote ice cream, which is the sweet potato ice cream, and then the pipino ice cream, which is cucumber, and then they also have tinutong na bigas ice cream, and the transliteration for that is burnt rice because we have a kind of coffee that's made of burnt rice, so they turn that into ice cream. And then of course pili ice cream, and then the malunggay ice cream, that's moringa leaves. And then we have the melon ice cream and the calamansi ice cream, and then your regular vanilla and coffee ice cream. We also saw calabasa ice cream, which is squash. All in all, I think their flavors are very, very intriguing and very, very amusing. And I decided to try out the sili ice cream. Sili is hot pepper and it is very popular in Bicol. It has been said that people who are from Bicol can tolerate hot and spicy foods much better than anyone else in the world. So I'm going to try that particular ice cream. It comes in 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3, and the 3 would be the hottest. I chose the level 2 because I wasn't sure if I could handle the level 3, and this is how it looked like. It has 2 hot peppers on top of it, and it has that little flag that says First Colonial Sealy Ice Cream Restaurant. And I had no problem eating that. It was hot. It wasn't like any other ice cream that I have ever had in my life, and I found it so amusing. But it's very, very delicious, and I highly recommend that you try out this ice cream if ever you're in any branch of the First Colonial Restaurant. Now, after the mall and the ice cream, and after Chandler was done talking to my aunt, we decided to go home. It was already the mid-afternoon, and in Bicol, what I have observed that it rains almost every afternoon, and this day was no exception. So we were on our way home when the rain started. The view would be exactly the same, so I'm not going to show you that anymore. But we did pass by some people who were selling dried anahaw leaves, and my dad needed a bunch of them for something that he was doing in Tigaon. I'm going to be playing the clip again with the original sound so you can hear how we talked, and then I'm going to come back and explain.
Ah, iya. May 200 ka dyan pa ba?
Igo tabi.
Tali man saraw. Chad, can you sit on the middle?
Yeah, we're gonna load the
Just one.
anahaw here.
Okay.
The guy was saying that the anahaw leaves that he had for sale were the bigger ones that he picked up from that tree over there. And then he said the price was 200 pesos for a bushel. So my dad asked me for 200 pesos cash because he didn't have small bills. And my dad told them that he wanted to buy 1 bushel of the dried anahaw leaves. And this is how they look like standing up, and then the man just took one and then loaded it into the back of the van, and Chandler had to move from the back of the van to the middle row beside me. And that is my vlog for today about this uninteresting road trip, which I'm thankful for. I am thankful that this road trip was uninteresting enough, which means that there were no accidents or nothing bad happened. But I'm also glad that I was able to find some interesting things here anyway. And I hope you join me in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!